everybody. Please can I welcome everyone to this meeting of Cabinet on Tuesday the 17th of October from the Walton Suite, Winchester Guildhall. The time is 9:30 a.m. My name is Councillor Martin Todd, Chairperson of the Cabinet and Leader of the Council. This meeting is being live streamed from the Council's YouTube channel, and the recording will also be available after the meeting. Subtitles can be switched on, and advice on how to turn these on is set out on our website. Can everyone please ensure that mobile phones are on silent, and can I remind members to use their microphones. In the unlikely event that it is necessary to evacuate the building, the fire alarm will sound. Please follow all instructions given to you by our team. Please note that there is a fire alarm test scheduled for 10:15 this morning. Can I welcome members of the public here today? When the time comes for you to make your contribution, I will invite you forward. Turning to the agenda, the first item is apologies for absence, and I have no apologies for absence. The second item is membership of cabinet bodies, and there are no changes listed to those. The third is disclosure of interests. I need to declare a personal non-prejudicial interest in my role as a county councillor, since there are some items where we are giving SIL funding to county council projects. Councillor Porter.
I would also like to declare a personal but non-prejudicial interest because there are items in the SIL paper that relate to county council projects.
Thank you. Are there any other declarations of interest? The fourth item is to note any request from councillors to make representations on an agenda item, and I have requests from councillors Williams, Wallace, Reid and Horrell, with councillors Wallace and Horrell speaking on the street market, and councillors Williams, Wallace, Reid and Horrell speaking on SIL bids. We also have public participation, and Mr. Ian Tate has registered to speak on agenda item 8. The next item is the approval of the minutes of the meeting held on September 13th, 2023. Cabinet, can I ask if you agree that the minutes can be agreed as a correct record?
Agreed.
We now move on to leader and cabinet announcements. Do we have any announcements? Councillor Lerney.
Thank you. I'm pleased to announce that we have launched our Rethinking Recycling survey to find out more about residents' recycling habits. And although we know they're already amongst the best recyclers in the county, what we could do to help them recycle more. Although we are still awaiting clarity on government requirements and available funding, as well as final confirmation of Hampshire's proposals for a new materials recycling facility, we know our residents want to recycle more, and in line with our greener, faster agenda, we want to be ready to move forward as quickly as possible. So the consultation is available on the City Council website and will be open until the 26th of November.
Thank you, Councillor Lerney. Councillor Westwood.
Thank you. I'm pleased to announce the completion of 54 new council homes in North Whiteley. This Thursday, Winchester City Council will unveil the final 9 new homes in North Whiteley in a ribbon cutting ceremony at the site. The properties are the last to be completed as part of the council's scheme at the wider North Whiteley development, bringing the total number of houses that have been handed over to the local authority to 54. 21 of these are 2- and 3-bedroom houses, each with their own gardens, as well as 6 2-bedroom flats. All the homes have been allocated as affordable rental properties through Hampshire Home Choice. A further 27 houses have been made available through shared ownership. The council's scheme of 54 homes is part of the larger North Whiteley development, which will include 3,500 homes, 2 primary schools, a secondary school with retail and community centres. Providing access to affordable housing is at the heart of our commitment to help people of all ages and incomes continue living in the district. So it's crucial that we provide a range of options whether that's our council housing offer or new shared ownership. New houses at North Whiteley are highly energy efficient, meaning that reduced environmental impact and lower bills for the residents. That, coupled with the high design standards and excellent build quality, hopefully means that the families making their homes in North Whiteley are proud to do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Becker.
Thank you. I'm pleased to announce that as part of the ongoing cost of living support being offered by this council, we have half-term lunches available for families on low incomes and actually anyone who needs a lunch. I know half-term personally is a stressful time for parents. So if people do need to access these lunches, they are available at Projects Cafe here in the centre of Winchester, and all you need to do is ask for the Little Lunch Club menu. There'll be no questions asked. You will get the lunch. Children can stay. There are going to be craft activities that are going on as well, so it'll be a lovely place to visit. For those across the district who can't make it to Projects Cafe, they can collect a food parcel from their school instead from this week. The schools participating in that service are Sunhill Junior School, Kingsworthy Primary School, Week Primary School, Stanmore Primary School, Winnell Primary School and Bishop Waltham Junior School. We've also partnered with Active Me 360 and Cyclife Aquila Nuclear to offer affordable football and 360 dance academy sessions for £2 a session over half term as well, to provide some activity for children across the district as well.
Thank you very much indeed. Any other announcements? Thank you. Moving on to the next item, which is the Winchester City Street Market Management Contract and Operating Policy. Councillor Thompson, would you like to introduce the paper?
Yes, thank you, Leader. I'm really pleased to be bringing forward this paper to Cabinet today. The operation of our street markets in Winchester always sparks interest and debate. How the market operates, the quality of the stalls, the way it looks and its attractiveness are all really important aspects which we all feel strongly about. An attractive market is really important to our high street, not only for the traders trading on the market, but also our shops, driving footfall and improving dwell time, and helping to make our high street vibrant and buzzy, and offering a great first entry for many small businesses. The current markets contract ran out several years ago, and it is now time that we retender the contract and align the operation of our street markets with the priorities outlined in our council plan. So today I'm seeking Cabinet approval to adopt the Winchester City Street Market Operating Policy, which is Appendix 1, and give the go-ahead to begin the competitive tender process to procure a market operator for an initial term of 3 years. Just by way of background, in 2022, the Retail Group produced a report for us on our markets, which made a number of recommendations on how we might improve our offer. These included better signage and branding, as well as suggestions around how we might expand the market further by offering early evening and themed markets. So a new market contract is very timely, and we have an exciting opportunity to ensure that these recommendations are reflected in the new contract and the operating policy. The papers before you today have been through both Business and Housing Policy Committee and the Winchester Town Forum, and the report before us has been amended to reflect the comments made from both committees. Interestingly, both committees raised similar issues, namely the variety of goods on offer and the safety aspect of the market's operation in particular. We should not forget that for some, the attractiveness of a market is about the opportunity to pick up a bargain and to purchase goods at a lower price than one might find in a shop. But for others, it's the excitement about a variety of goods on offer and the buzzy nature that markets quite often bring to an area. So it is important that we see how we might improve the variety of and number of stalls, looking at whether we have the right mix of products on offer and ensuring that our offer is as diverse and appealing as it can be. Both committees also raised the important issue of safety in both setting up at the start and loading at the end of the day. And it's also important that we recognise that for some residents and visitors, it is not always easy to negotiate their way through busy thoroughfares when the market is in operation. So it's important that where and how we position stalls is well thought through and sensitive to the needs of our residents, cyclists, particularly as the cycle route forms part of the shared space with the market, and visitors. We also need to ensure that there is flexibility in the new contract to be able to cope with unavoidable pitch changes when, for example, and we're going to see this in the next couple of weeks, frontages such as Debenhams is no longer available. This is all set out in the body of the report, but to really strengthen this aspect, I would like to propose a new recommendation as follows: that the Head of Economy and Community, in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Business and Culture, have the ability to amend the Winchester Street Market operating policy to include specific measurements for the placing and spacing of the market stalls. So to conclude, we all recognise the great importance of retaining a vibrant market in our town centre. It contributes hugely to driving up footfall and dwell time in the town. It helps support local businesses and independents and is a cost-effective way of encouraging startups of very small businesses, some of whom have successfully gone on to move into permanent shops. So with that additional recommendation, Cabinet, I hope you will support the recommendations before you. Thank you. And I'm happy to take questions. And I know we've got Mr. Costello and Ms. Robbins here who are available should the need arise for questions.
Thank you very much indeed. And we will come to that extra recommendation when we vote on or decide on the recommendations at the end of this section of the agenda. Before we get to that point, we have three people registered to speak. First of those is Mr. Ian Tate. So Mr. Tate, if you could come forward and make your comments.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to address Cabinet regarding the street market. I spoke at the Town Forum on the 14th of September, and I also attended the Business and Housing Policy Committee on the 19th of September when this paper was discussed. I think that many members already know that I've always been a strong and vocal supporter of the market ever since it moved from its old location in Middlebrook Street to the High Street back in 2011. For those of you with long memories, you'll remember that the previous market in Middlebrook Street was small, poor quality stalls. Sadly, the market manager went to prison because of practices of retaining pitch fees for himself, Spanish custom. But it was never mentioned on the council because it was of so little significance. At the Town Forum, I also pointed out that the twice monthly farmers market used to be rated as the best in the country. Now it's diminished to an absolute shadow of its former self. The farmers market contract has never been retendered, and I think that speaks volumes about why it's struggling. There is great value in regularly assessing any process, specifically the market in this instance, but I think Councillor Miller wisely said that at the Business and Housing Policy Committee, the council has to be very careful about changes it makes to the market and that they are accepted by the market managers. It is by no means a given that high street markets are a success. The current market managing company has run the market since 2011 and I think has done an excellent job. A good market has to balance income generation, quality and variety of stalls. The relationship between the permanent shops and the market traders is absolutely critical. And I think there is a perception that markets sell lower cost goods. You have to get the market stall selling goods of a comparable quality to the shop, or else that relationship deteriorates. I think some of the practicalities, we've now got a peddler who takes a premium pitch at the junction of Market Lane and the High Street. We have no control over that whatsoever. We wouldn't allow a market stall to go there. And I'm not against peddlers, but I think there are some sensitivities there. I'm just going to conclude by saying thank you. Last time I spoke here, you sorted out the fountain. The baby changing facilities, which are important for people using the market, are still closed because of vandalism. And I do hope, Leader, that you can use your skillful powers to get that baby. I don't have children, but I appreciate it's a crucial facility for many. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tate, and we'll take the comments from councillors, and then Councillor Thompson will respond to all the comments made. So the next deputation, or the next person registered to speak is Councillor Wallace. So would you like to come forward, please, Councillor Wallace?
Morning. Street markets are distinctive, exciting businesses which are at the forefront of visitor experiences. However, the research found that the current Winchester Street Market is currently only rated good to middling. The new market contract is therefore a fantastic opportunity to build a more distinctive, exciting Winchester-specific market that attracts more visitors whilst also improving sustainability. The plan that's being put to Cabinet today goes some way in that direction, but could be bolder in its aspirations. It could, using the council's rhetoric, go greener faster. Why not, for example, ban all single-use plastics from the market? Not just plates and cutlery, but plastic bags, plastic drinking bottles and plastic cups. The cost of alternative eco-friendly products are no longer a barrier to moving. Similarly, whilst the plan includes some steps, there is opportunity to do more to encourage local retailers. After all, wouldn't it be great to have a market that was full of local products? By adopting a bolder approach, Winchester could develop a more recognisable brand, raise awareness, increase sustainability, and improve the Winchester visitor experience. Going forward, I hope you will consider these ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. And Councillor Horrell.
Chair, good morning, and thank you for allowing me to address Cabinet this morning. I welcome the paper today, but do have a number of points of clarification for the Cabinet, despite some very helpful discussions at earlier committees. We know that the market is a key element of the Council's offering, and the consultants' report has been very helpful in identifying the opportunities to enhance the market. The report talked about market opportunities outside of the city of Winchester. I do not see reference to other offerings in our market towns in the paper today, so I'd like to seek clarification as to the Cabinet's intention regarding other locations. Another point which I think is just helpful for clarification is the portfolio holder mentioned that we do not have a current signed agreement in place with the market operator. And I wanted to understand why that has been left for so long. I appreciate COVID, but I'm sure that is not the only reason. You mentioned in the paper a robust performance monitoring schedule in 3.5. But I don't really understand what does that look like and who will conduct this. In 7.1b, you reference the safety aspects, and this has already been raised previously. And I personally have witnessed several dangerous loading issues, a member of the public being hit by one of the vehicles. Can I be assured this aspect is sufficiently well covered within the new operating procedures and that the requirements will be more stringent in the future. How will this be overseen over and above how we currently conduct this? Excuse me. When we seek traders for the market, will we give priority to local offers and businesses? I see we want a locally driven market in 12.22, but how will this actually manifest itself? How will we oversee the correct labelling of products, which has caused much concern, excuse me, in the recent past from some of our traders? And in 12.26.4, how will the ratification process work? Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Horrell. Councillor Thompson, a long list of questions.
Yes, thank you very much. I wonder whether Mr. Costello and Mr. Robbins might come up to the table too, because I think there are a number of points here that they could usefully help with. Starting with Mr. Tate, I give the same answer really that I gave at the town forum regarding the farmers market. We have had discussions with them, and it is clear that, and also I agree, their offer has substantially reduced over the last few years, and particularly following COVID. And I know that we are really keen to help them improve their offer and get, encourage more stalls to actually take part in that farmers market. And I'm sure officers will continue to address that problem to make it a much better and more attractive offer than it is currently on offer at the moment. I agree with what you say about peddlers too. It is a real problem, and it's something that we would really want to discourage. And I don't know whether the officers might have something to say about that. Councillor Wallace, I would love to be bolder, but I think we do have to take it step by step. We have put in place a clear set of criteria for that the stalls will have to meet, and one of those criteria is how far does the stallholder have to travel, and and again, where are the goods produced? Are they, and obviously the more local that those products and stallholders are, then the higher they will score, because they will be up on that list. I think we have to take people with us in terms of single-use plastic. I agree, in an ideal world we would ban it all completely, but we do at the moment have a really successful market, and I think it's all about encouraging the next phase of that, to get the traders to consider using alternatives to plastic, and the more we can do to encourage that, then again they will score more highly on their eligibility for a stall. So I think it's all about taking people with us. And I get your point about local retailers, and that's why we have put that clause in, to see how far they have to travel and also where the goods come from. Safety requirements that Councillor Horrell mentioned, as you know, I mentioned that in my my opening remarks, and indeed I too have witnessed not people actually being hurt, but really questionable driving, I suppose, by stalls when they come to particularly pack up at the end of the day, and reversing almost into tables and chairs that have been set out at a local cafe. So I am acutely aware of that. You mentioned the market towns, and indeed one of the exercises we did at the start of all this process, we visited all the market towns and we did talk to them about the market and an offer of a market, and we would dearly like Bishop's Waltham in particular, I think, to have a market. Alresford operate their own market, and we have had a discussion with them about how we might help to improve that market, and we are open to other market towns, if they wish to have a market, to come to us, and yes, we gladly help them with that. I think that is about all. Why the market contract has not been procured before, I have to leave that to the officers. I'm not really sure, but there we go. I hope that's answered most of the questions.
Ms. Roberts.
Thank you, Councillor. Just to add to the point about the contract, COVID did delay activity, but we also wanted to undertake the research, and we were given the opportunity through the Welcome Back Fund, through government, to do that research about how you can look at your high streets and activate them. So we took that opportunity to take a review, do the independent research, and then feed that back through the policy committee, so that we framed our new approach based on the best evidence available. So it did lengthen the process for that.
Thank you very much. The next section of the discussion is questions from councillors. So I don't know if questions from cabinet. I don't know if any colleagues have any questions on what we've heard. Councillor Loney.
Thank you. The mention of markets elsewhere in the district. My understanding is that the Alresford market, for example, is run by the town trust, so is out of our control. However, we do look to promote these markets, so I wondered if we could hear a bit more about that.
Mr. Costello.
So yes, Councillor, and as you say, Alresford market, for example, is out of our control, but we have had several meetings with the current operator of that market throughout this process, and part of the work that we're doing with the UK Shared Prosperity Fund around markets is developing that brand awareness of our markets offer across the whole district. So while we're doing at the minute quite a fair bit of work within the city, we're looking at how we can actually develop that wider brand and markets offer, and we've had those conversations with Alresford, and indeed Alresford, as we sort of introduce some of these policies, the conversations we've had with the market operator there is that they're happy to look at how they could perhaps adopt some of these best practice policies within their own market operation too, and we'll continue that dialogue going forward.
Thank you. It's good to have that confirmed.
Any other questions? I'm sure I saw a hand. Did I not see a hand? Yeah, Councillor Cutler.
Yes, I just did. It's actually part of Councillor Horrell's question, but could you clarify the ratification of under the approved traders application process, the ratification by the council? Who undertakes that? And presumably that's the area where the whole point about local and provenance can be looked at fairly closely.
Yes, so it's a two-pronged approach with the existing market traders through the next 6 months transition period. We'll be working alongside the ongoing market operator in supporting those market traders to meet the ongoing policy requirements through support, advice and guidance, etc. And then new market traders coming onto the market through this paper and the policy we've set out in detail, an application process which we will work alongside the market operator to introduce. It is relatively similar to our procurement scoring as well, so it's a process that we're very familiar with, and essentially the market operator will be responsible for delivering that, but under our guidance and scrutiny. And within the policy, if there is any market operator applicants that need any sort of further consideration, they are brought to officers for determination. But ultimately, at the end of the process, the final determination of all market operators sits with the council.
Councillor Westwood.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, can I just ask about facilities for disabled people and how we brought that into the design? So I chaired the Winchester Walking Strategy Group, and one of my members is partially sighted and has had difficulties walking through the current market and has had to be rescued from the odd item of clothing in a stall now and again. I'm just interested how we've engaged and how we will ensure that the facilities meet the needs of these people.
Thank you, Councillor Westwood, for your question. Yes, I am acutely aware of that, and it's one of the reasons why we are really keen that we set out pitch sizes and plots, if you like, that are clearly defined, as well as I think in the paper you will see, I'm not sure at what point, but you will see that we will restrict storeholders' ability to have lots of overhanging items outside their pitch plot, and also other items, sort of agents or whatever, spread around their plot. We're really keen that we do effectively get the traders to actually stick to their pitch rather than, and so there is a clearly defined area for that, to help those partially sighted to actually navigate the high street when the market's in operation.
Councillor Becker.
And a very similar question for those in wheelchairs or pushing buggies, and what provision is being made for them in the new layout?
Well, basically, a similar answer in that we've defined pitch sizes and plots, and being in control of that, I think, is the important aspect. Obviously, it will be up to the market manager, whoever that is, to actually control that on a daily basis. But we really do want the market to be people to be able to negotiate that, whether they're in a wheelchair, whether they are partially sighted or have buggies with small children, and it's really important that we do keep it accessible to everyone.
Any further questions? I've got a couple of questions. I mean, firstly, there was some discussion earlier about whether we're encouraging more local groups, and I just wanted to check that I'd understood the paper correctly, that in 12.24C it says national groups and chains will be discouraged, and in 12.24E it says that we will favour those that travel least miles to operate on the street market. So my understanding, that's in there. Can you confirm that that will go through into the scoring process?
Yes, absolutely. Within the scoring criteria, we have a number of weightings and scoring arrangements that allows for those that are locally, where the products are local provenance and the travel and the distance of those traders are considered as part of the overall scoring process. That doesn't necessarily mean that those are beyond Winchester are unable to trade on the market. It just means that the scoring process focuses on where the products are procured from, and also where the trader's business is based.
That's great. I was going to ask about the environmental standards, because if I understood 12.27 correctly, it's absolutely explicit that we will mark people up for not using single-use plastics and mark them down if they do. And similarly, it talks about recycled and sustainable goods, and hopefully upcycled ones as well. Provenance, using local or fair trade products or ingredients. So that will all be in the scoring system. So a lot of what's being asked for is already going to happen. If I understood that correctly. Good, thank you. And then I had one other question, which related to the question of accurate labelling. Obviously, that's the legal responsibility of the County Council through trading standards. How do we work with trading standards? How does that partnership work? Or is it something that we try and enforce internally first and then use them as a backup? Just a bit more guidance on that would be helpful.
If a product is incorrectly labelled and is trading falsely, that is trading standards absolutely correct. But to address the issue about sort of some of the food safety, or is the product correctly identifying what the ingredients are, etc., there is a compliance policy that will sit alongside this operating policy, and that sets out with our public protection team all the requirements that you need to trade, all the details about any standards that you need to have in place, any other I suppose sort of food criteria that you need to display. So that is all very clearly and detailed information that will be set out for the market operator and for all of the stall holders as well, so that they'll have a clear guidance and recognition of what they are required to do to trade safely.
That's great. So the market team will be working closely with public protection or environmental health, as people may recognise the name, and with trading standards to make sure that everything at the market is to the relevant quality. Good, that's very reassuring. Cabinet, is there any debate on this paper? Councillor Porter.
There is no doubt that it adds to the market adds to the vibrancy, and finding goods that are relevant to your lifestyle and to your wishes as a person walking up the high street certainly encourages you to walk further up. I think we are very keen to make sure that the market has a relevance to local people as well as to visitors, and certainly following on from Councillor Lerney's point about people wanting to be greener and recycle more, I think that people naturally do gravitate towards the stalls they feel are successful and they work for them. So I'm very pleased to be supporting this paper, because I think it actually brings the vibrancy to the high street. It makes it exciting for local people as well as for visitors, which is really important and relevant. And the new rules that we're setting up, I think, can reassure local people that they are getting the local market that they want, and the opportunity for different groups to take up market opportunities is also in this paper. So it's not just restricted to the market that we currently have, and I think that's a really exciting opportunity for other groups to take on.
Any other comments? Councillor Thompson, any last thoughts?
Just to say thank you very much, Councillor Porter, for your contribution and all the questions that I've received as well from other councillors, members of the public and also Cabinet. I think we've had a really good discussion on this paper, and I think it clearly shows with the amount of questions how important it is that we get this right and that we are sensitive around the issues of the traders versus the shops in the high street. And yes, I think it's a wonderful opportunity to allow our market to grow and to offer more opportunities for younger people perhaps to set up stall and have a go as well in the future. So I'm delighted with the fact that you are all supportive and happy to go forward to the recommendations.
Thank you very much indeed, and thank you for all your work and also for the work of Mrs. Robbins and Mr. Costello and their team for doing that review work across the district and working to bring forward a paper that I think will ensure that Winchester becomes even better known for its markets and they're even more of an attraction to our city. And I'm particularly excited that we will also be introducing some innovative new markets. And reassured to hear that we'll be continuing to work with the farmers market to ensure that it is the #1 farmers market in the country, which is where we would always like it to be. Like Councillor Thompson, one of the things I like about the market, one of the things that's often exciting about the market is that people that start as stalls end up expanding and growing and becoming permanent businesses with a permanent site within the city. And I'm also hope that that will continue as well. And it was good to see the principles outline the importance we put on disability, on access, particularly for people with disabilities. And we do have an extra recommendation that goes into this paper, or proposed by Councillor Thompson. So I would like to thank and congratulate everybody involved in bringing this paper forward, and also thank all the councillors that were involved through the scrutiny process and at the town forum for strengthening the paper and bringing forward their perspective as we move towards this meeting and this decision. So the recommendations we have in front of us are outlined on page 16 of the paper, but we have an extra one which I will just read out, that was proposed earlier by Councillor Thompson, that the head of Economy and Community, in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Business and Culture, amends the Winchester Street Market operating policy to include specific measurements for the placing and spacing of market stalls. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Lerney is the seconder. Well, first of all, do we agree with adding that 5th recommendation to the recommendations? Agreed. And then taking the 5 recommendations, adopting the new street market operating policy, giving delegated authority to the corporate head of service, economy and community to commence the competitive tender exercise and enter into all necessary agreements. And recommendation 3, which is once the tender is completed, to enter into all necessary agreements with the preferred contractor, and delegating in recommendation 4 authority to the service lead legal to handle the necessary contractual agreements, and then the new 5th recommendation that the head of economy and community amends the street market operating policy to include specific measurements for the spacing and placing of market stalls. With those 5 recommendations, do you all agree with the proposals?
Agreed.
Great, thank you very much indeed, and thank you to everybody for all their hard work on this. Yes, so we have a fire alarm due to go off in about 90 seconds.
Yeah,
So shall I suggest a brief 2-minute adjournment? So nobody leave the room, but in order for the meeting to be uninterrupted, can I suggest that we wait for the fire alarm test and then restart?
some pressure there, Leader, that it does actually arrive on time.
Yeah.
It is actually just the standard Tuesday test, so it is just a test, but we can certainly pause momentarily.
Okay, so I'll just propose that we adjourn. I assume you all agree for a minute while we wait for the alarm to go off.
Don't forget off.
Reaches the end of its ringing. We are in a position to restart the meeting. So the next paper in front of us is the Community Infrastructure Levy funding allocations for 2023 bids. Councillor Porter, could you introduce the paper, please?
Thank you, Councillor Todd. The purpose of the report is to formally agree the new community bids for council and community-led projects for SIL funding led by the informal panel after the close of application process early in the year, and the Cabinet agreement is also sought for the Community Infrastructure Funding Programme for 24-25. The rest of the purpose that you will see on this for our communities as they grow. Health was identified as a #1 priority in Bishop's Waltham, for example, and the large amount of money that's being forward for that allows for more projects to be brought forward across the district, which will benefit more than one parish. Also, the purpose of the paper is to agree from 24-25, the bid process will take place between the 1st of September and the 31st of November to avoid the pre-election period, which results in delays to the decision-making process. So we're going to improve the efficiency of that process. And also to reaffirm how the allocated budgets for funding should be used for some of the larger scale projects as outlined in our previous paper, CAB 3385. So the list you have before you are successful proposals put forward by the community, the Health Service, Havant District Council and the County Council, as well as Winchester City Council. The applications themselves demonstrate the wide range of needs across the district, and successful bids reflect the aims of our council plan. Community infrastructure money, or CIL, is collected from individual developers as part of the smaller planning permissions. It accumulates then for larger projects. Putting the money together into one pot allows Winchester City Council to pool the resources and deliver infrastructure in the communities where the development's taking place. In this round, we're using CIL funding in accordance with the principles of our council plan. So sums sought by applicants range from 10k to 410k, and the list includes improvements to our health and fitness activities, which is 2 new surgery rooms at Bishop's Waltham, Havant DC for Horizon Leisure for an upgrade and reprovisioning of the centre, serving Winchester's residents in the community west of Waterlooville, and upgrading and improving toilet facilities right across the district, including the city and the market towns. The second area is active travel improvements, where we have Twyford real-time bus improvements, new and improved bus shelters in the city, and cycle contraflow scheme at Upper High Street. Third area is greater opportunities for play for children of all abilities. So in Compton and Kingsworthy, we're funding inclusive play equipment. In Oliver's Battery, it's recreation equipment. And in Wickham, for the new preschool, providing facilities to where children live. Improvements and upgrades to district facilities are also really vital. We want people to be able to use the village halls and things near where they live in the facilities. So Otterbourne, Shedfield, Swanmore allotments, Wickham Community Centre and St Barnabas Church all are due to receive funding from this round of funding. Finally, going greener faster. The St John's Ambulance and Jubilee Hall in Bishop's Waltham will both receive finance from this. Winchester Rugby Club floodlights, which are going to LEDs, and also we're replacing the gas boilers with a non-fossil fuel solution at Whiteley's Meadowside Centre. On page 74, there's a detailed breakdown of the spending this time and the remaining sums. The remaining uncommitted amount includes specific budgets as set out in our previous paper 3385. So now that we list Hampshire County Council and Winchester City Council led transport projects as 30% of our total amount of CIL, community and health projects as 10%, and Winchester City Council led projects as 60%. And for transparency, the meetings of the informal panel are included with this paper, and actually subsequent meetings when we asked for expert advice. It can be seen in this paper that some were rejected, but there are still some applications where queries remain. So we're working through those proposals with queries directly with applicants. The outcome of these will be confirmed in due course. Later on in the paper, which people might miss, is that for potential applicants, there is still £344,580 left in the community and health pot for further rounds of yearly bids for community and health projects. So as you can see, we're trying to make sure that the whole district benefits from community infrastructure levy, and we're really pleased that we are able to pass these sums out to communities who have applied for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Porter, for your introduction. We now have 4 councillors who wish to make some comments on the paper. And so could I ask Councillor Williams to come forward and make his contribution.
Excellent. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak today. I'd first like to thank the officers, especially Corinne, in her correspondence to Bishop's Waltham and Durley Parish Council. I know they've been quite persistent, so thank you very much for that communication as well with Councillor Porter as well. Bishop's Waltham has raised the second most amount of SIL money for the district. So it's really great to see approximately 300,000 being invested back into decarbonising the Jubilee Hall and to secure the former St John's Ambulance Hall for continued community and early education use. Finally, the big amount that's been allocated to Bishop's Waltham in regards to the surgery, a big thank you to the leader and officers from the Planning and Estates team for meeting me over the past 18 months in my role as a parish councillor there. It really has been fantastic, working to achieve this as a short-term, medium-term solution to the capacity in Bishop's Waltham, but it also goes further afield into villages from the Upper Meon Valley, from North Whiteley, where patients are registering at Bishop's Waltham, from Botley, Borley Green and Hornston Heath from the Eastleigh district as well. So the GP surgery really does cover a wide area, so the benefits will be felt by a great number of people. Finally, I look forward to continue working with the Cabinet members in regards to finding a new permanent location for the GP surgery as a long-term plan as part of the new local plan. So I'm quite keen to keep working from that way. But a big thank you, obviously, for those allocations for Bishop's Waltham.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Williams. Councillor Wallace.
Thank you. It's great to see that this year's SIL allocation appears to be more representative of the population across the district. However, for completeness, please could the council provide an update of the split of SIL receipts by ward and SIL funding by ward? I'm not expecting that today. I just hope you could take the action and provide it to us at a later date, please. Yeah.
Just answer that quickly. It is available and I'll send it to you probably today.
Thank you. Thank you. Second question is regarding rent for the temporary consulting rooms at Bishop's Waltham Surgery. As you're no doubt aware, the NHS pays rent to GP surgeries for the number and size of consulting rooms that are on their premises. For this reason, GP surgeries are popular with property management companies who frequently take ownership of GP surgery buildings and then provide maintenance, upgrades and/or extensions in return for rent from the NHS. As Winchester is funding the additional temporary consulting rooms at Bishop's Waltham Surgery, will Winchester Council be receiving rent from these rooms, for these rooms from the NHS? Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Leader. Too loud for apologies for arriving late. As many members will know, I don't like arriving at places late. You're liable to miss something, but my apologies. I already had another appointment at 9 o'clock, which I managed to get pushed forward a little. Could I thank you for the opportunity to say a few words with regard to this subject? I'm delighted to see this paper come forward with such a variety of projects. I am particularly pleased to see the allocation of funds to the Waterlooville Leisure Centre, which has already been mentioned, lies within the boundaries of Havant District Council, but right on the very, very edge of Winchester. It's like a carbuncle that sits into our district. Which is whilst directly impacts the Winchester residents closest to the centre, and there are some approximately 15,000 residents who would have a local use of the centre. This project was was initiated initially by a colleague of mine, Councillor Brooke, and in the spirit of collaboration across the council boundaries, is truly demonstrates putting residents first. It is encouraging to see some larger projects coming forward for SIL funding, and we need to continue to promote this. The panel recommending additional spending is a real positive, as I often complained about the limitations to the SIL community pot. We still have a large amount of unallocated funds, so need to build on the momentum of this year's for next year's submissions. As councillors, we should all have a hand in promoting this pot to our communities. So could I ask, Leader, if it is possible that we can have a members briefing regarding the types of project that can be considered, the allocation information, and when the scheme will open in 2024 to allow us to better support the projects in our area. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much indeed, and we'll come back to your question when we take all the questions and comments together. Councillor Horrell.
Chair, thank you for allowing me to address Cabinet again this morning. I have one very specific request, and that is the decision by the panel not to recommend SIL funding for the project put forward by the council itself for new access road and drainage for a rural affordable housing site at Waterloo Lane in Micheldever. Sadly, at no point has anyone spoken to myself or my colleagues as ward members or the parish who all wholeheartedly support this affordable housing development, which is much in need in this rural community. And indeed, the lack of the bid has now stalled that project, and I would welcome a better understanding as to how we as local representatives can have a conversation about what is the issue with this bid and how we can move it forward. It is clear that there is additional information required, and we would be delighted to be able to help in that consideration for the panel. But it's not clear to me or my colleagues how we can have that conversation to ensure this important project that has full community support is actioned. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Horrell. Councillor Porter, could you run through the comments and questions?
Yes, firstly, I'll take the last one first. It was a specific request to get more information from them, or from the HRA team really, and also to find out a little bit more of the technicality of what that would mean. And I would just like to take that offline because I don't think it's appropriate to have that conversation in the room in public, but it is something that we do need to talk through and just seek some clarification from the HRA team about that. So I can assure you it is, that's why I mentioned in my paper that I said at the end we're working through the proposals with queries directly with applicants and the outcomes will be confirmed in due course. And that's what we're intending to do. Going back to the other points, the funding for the surgery rooms, those surgery rooms actually will be owned by the NHS. And so they will, part of the conditions of that process, and I think it's documented in the paper, is that those rooms will be actually owned by the NHS. My intention is to check that the legal team have covered all of the points you've made, but I'm pretty certain that the legal team will have covered everything we need to be, that needs to be covered for that. So when we give grants, they're not just handed over, they're given over when the item or the event or the project is actually finalised and in place. So money doesn't just get handed over and we hope that it is delivered. We make sure that the project is delivered first, and that's a very important part of Ms Phillips' work. The other point that was raised was that councillors have a hand in promoting the pot by Councillor Reid. Yes, in fact, we had a working party last year before this round went through, and we're having another revised working party just to talk through what success of that has been, and other lessons to learn. We want to continually improve this, and one of the things we want to do next year is to make sure that the district councillors have signed off that local bid as being important, that we think it's important that every district councillor has that opportunity to do that, and I think that might help Councillor Horrell's point as well. And the new scheme for 2024, we've had quite a few member briefings. I think we've got 3 this week, but we are conscious of trying to produce a balance in member briefings. But I think it is a good idea that we could do that a little later on when we've got the had the working party and seen the positives and negatives. And we do need to give that in good time. I know myself as writing in local magazines, parish magazines, you need to give them about 6 weeks notice before it actually gets published. So we need to make sure that that's in good time so that all councillors do know about it. But I think if there has been a query, we've been trying to, and it's relevant to the local councillor, we have been trying to have those conversations. And I think that local councillors, I know as well, have talked to Corinne in many cases about specific issues. And as I said, we're still working through some of those final queries. So thank you. But thanks everybody for your very positive thoughts.
Thank you, Councillor Porter. Cabinet, are there any questions from Cabinet colleagues in addition to those already raised? I have a question about one of the recommendations as written, which I suspect is more of a question for the Chief Executive or Monitoring Officer rather than the Cabinet member, which is recommendation 3 for the funding for Waterlooville Leisure Centre. Paragraph, I think 1113, talks about a condition of full planning permission and an active travel package that connects the leisure centre. Do we need to have that in the recommendation, or is the fact that it's in the paper subject to a corrected paragraph number adequate?
Thank you, Leader. My advice would be that we need to add that subject to clause to the recommendation, which is how it is set out with every other recommendation that is set on this paper. So I would just suggest, Leader, if I may, if that's helpful, we merely lift the words from the report after community and health projects. This award is subject to the project receiving a full business case, which would need to be supported. Forgive me, Leader. This allocation would be subject to the project receiving full planning permission, which would need to be supported by a business case and be accompanied by an active travel package to link the site to the Winchester area. We would absolutely wish to be assured that the contribution that this council is making to the fantastic development taken by our colleagues at Havant Borough is fully accessible to Winchester residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry to be a governance pedant. The point about would need to be supported by a business case. I mean, is that feels to me something that we can't mandate on Havant Borough Council in terms of how they take their planning decisions.
You are correct, Leader. I just lifted the words from the report. I mean, we could, if you wish to make it a little bit sharper, allocation supported by the project receiving full planning permission and be accompanied by an active travel package to link the site. Because clearly our colleagues would not progress to planning without a business case. You are correct.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that will be the intended adjustments to the recommendations. Any other questions, Councillor Cutler?
More a pedantic point. There is no 31st of November, so the period that we discussed should say the 30th of November.
I bow to your mastery of pedantry. I thought I was leading the way on the council, but clearly I cannot compete. Are there any other questions? Debate or further comment? Councillor Lurney.
Thank you. I very much welcome this paper and the allocations within it, which will allow so many projects to move ahead across the district, because it not only shows our commitment to provide better facilities for local residents, but also to carbon reduction, greener travel and our local environment. The refurbishment of public toilets was covered in the last Cabinet meeting and will not only lead to an improved visitor experience, but to lower energy and water use, which is very much supported. We have a number of measures in here encouraging public transport and active travel, with bus shelter upgrades in Winchester and Twyford and the cycle facility in the Upper High Street. And although a number of bids to improve pedestrian facilities have not been approved through this report. They do continue to be considered as part of a more detailed look at spending the pot allocated to HCC related projects and avoiding the first come, first served approach, which would see us very rapidly run through the finance we have available for highway schemes. And of course, we do have our city and district LCWIPs currently in development, which will help us inform that process. I'm also pleased that we're demonstrating that we're not being constrained by the slightly artificial boundaries to our residents of the national park and the district, recognising that greater bus use in Twyford, while it might be in the national park, will benefit that bus service which serves so many people in other parts of the district. And again, where facilities such as the New Havant Leisure Centre are across the boundary, where they benefit our district residents, we will invest and will continue to seek to provide those short distances to local facilities which can be travelled by foot and bike. And I'm pleased we're adding that reassurance around the active travel plan for the leisure centre. Investment in Meadowside to improve energy efficiency is also very much to be welcomed, as is low energy lighting for Winchester Rugby Club. As an allotment holder myself, I can confirm not only that provision of a composting toilet is of great benefit, but it's of particular benefit to females who don't have the option of using their compost bins, as many male allotment holders do. Facilities on allotments are very important in terms of the amount you can produce, and that drainage and water piece is essential. As a local ward member, I would also like to mention the bid for the community facilities at St Barnabas. The Week Local Centre does serve both St Barnabas and St Paul wards, who, between them, they've generated around a quarter of the SIL this council has available. And while I really wouldn't want to get into it has to be where it was generated, because residents of St Paul and St Barnabas very much benefit from money that's been spent elsewhere in Winchester. In terms of local facilities, I think it's long overdue that we have a look at improving facilities in an area which has seen a very significant increase in population. I'd also like to refer to the Mugger, which has been turned down as a proposal for St Matthew's Field. This is ongoing. Currently, councillors are carrying out a local consultation exercise to see what local people do think about that proposal, and indeed whether there are other improvements they'd like to see in our local parks and open spaces. So again, this is another bid which, while it's been rejected at this point, is certainly something we may well come back to at a later date.
Thank you, Councillor Learney. Any other comments? Councillor Becker.
Thank you. I'm also very happy to support this paper and the projects that it supports. I'm particularly happy to support the funding of the play area projects in Compton and Kingsworthy, as well as the provision of the funding for the Bishop's Waltham GP surgery. The accessible play equipment in particular is so important to our community. This will be additional to the traditional play equipment that most of us will have used growing up, and allows children with disabilities to also enjoy play areas as they absolutely deserve to do. We've seen the benefits of accessible play equipment down in Abbey Gardens, and the amazing sight of seeing children with disabilities playing alongside their siblings and their friends and being able to just take part as a child. The porta cabins for Bishop's Waltham GP surgery are also absolutely necessary, and a great example of how local government and how this council can work together with the NHS to deliver benefits for residents. We've heard from Councillor Williams about the really wide area from which patients attend the surgery, and we see from the paper the amount of growth that's been seen. So hopefully these will make it easier to get a GP appointment and to receive the other care that's offered by GP surgeries now, because that's not simply receiving a GP appointment, as we all know, getting our COVID and flu jabs and seeing the nurses and all of that stuff needs space. So this will allow that to take place while you wait for a new GP surgery, which hopefully isn't too far away. And also, as a local St Bart's councillor and as a New Zealander, go the All Blacks, I'm very happy to support the new LED lights for the Winchester Rugby Club. We know that's a fantastic local facility, and those lights will both improve the environmental nature of that club, which I know they're very committed to, and also just help the wildlife in that area.
Thank you, Councillor Becker. Councillor Westwood.
Thank you, Leader. I also thoroughly support this paper and the recommendations that are brought forward, and it's fantastic to see such a wide range of projects that spread throughout the district that are approved and will hopefully be taken forward in this paper. I would like to turn to one of the items that wasn't approved, which is the Waterloo Road housing development area and the request for seal funding there, which I have previously raised in cabinet discussions prior to this meeting. When I introduced and talked about the new homes at Whiteley, I talked about providing access to affordable housing is at the heart of our commitment to help people of all ages and incomes continue living in the district. It is exceedingly difficult in current financial times to bring forward new schemes that are in more rural areas and smaller schemes. And I'm pleased that Councillor Porter is going to take more information on this, and I know that the housing team themselves are bringing forward other information, and I welcome the input from Councillor Horrell from the parish and ward perspective as well. And I'm keen to see that reconsidered as we go forwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Westwood. Any Councillor Cutler?
Thank you, Leader. I will echo the support of everyone else for the fact that these are so widespread across the district, but be quite parochial, and really welcome the support to the two Wickham projects. Wickham Community Centre in particular is such a major hub in that area, hosts the food bank, hosts the pantry, has a community garden, and is a really important resource. And also echo Councillor Reid in welcoming the grant towards the refurbishment of the Waterlooville Leisure Centre, partly because the project is actually a shift of emphasis within that leisure centre from away from purely leisure to health and well-being, which I think is crucially important. And that leisure centre does. I wouldn't describe that industrial area as a carbuncle in quite the same way, but it is so close to the Western Waterlooville development and is obviously really important to the residents there, but also to residents of Denmead and as far as Southwark. And the aspiration of the leisure centre is that it covers as far as Hambledon and into the Meon Valley as well for health and well-being services. And it's an important part of our liaison with Havant Borough on various issues, because the residents, particularly in West Waterlooville, live in Waterlooville. They don't live in Winchester from their perception, and it's really important that we maintain very good relationship which we've developed with Havant and support these projects. So I'm really pleased to support that funding and the paper.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Cutler. Yes, so I would like to join with everybody in thanking Ms Phillips and officers more widely for all the work that's been done on this. I'd like to thank people out in the communities who brought these bids forward and district councillors who helped make that happen. And the panel that sat to evaluate the proposals and choose between them. We had a request, which I think was to me, from Councillor Reid about having a member briefing. I think that's a very good idea. We've deliberately, I think, in our most recent SIL paper that outlined the overall policy, made it clear that the councillors have an explicit role, not only in putting schemes forward, but also in having their views considered when we look at any particular proposal. I think it'll also be useful to have more clarity about how councillors can influence joint work with Hampshire and what bids they put forward. But overall, this is a very encouraging set of improvements to our district, tackling the pressures that come from extra development. I'm really pleased to see that we're backing the NHS and the wider support for health and wellbeing. I'm really pleased to see the support for improving our local environment and tackling climate change. And I'm really pleased to see that we're working not just inside our area, but across borders to support local communities right across the district. We have quite a complicated set of recommendations in front of us. Further to the discussion I had earlier with the Chief Executive, I'm going to propose a slight amendment to recommendation 3, which is we change 11.7 to 11.13 in the text and add the words, this allocation is subject to the project receiving full planning permission and being accompanied by an active travel package to link the site to the Winchester area. I probably need a seconder. That's Porter. So before we vote on all the recommendations, do people agree with that amendment? Good. Thank you very much. And we'll now go through the recommendations in front of us. So the first is to approve the 23-24 allocation of £296,341 for the community projects detailed in sections 11.5 to 11.13 of the report. Specifically the St John Ambulance Hall in Bishop's Waltham, the Jubilee Hall in Bishop's Waltham, energy efficiency measures, the play equipment in Memorial Park Compton, the play equipment in Eversley Park Kingsworthy, new leisure equipment in Oliver's Battery Recreation Ground, improvements to Otterbourne Village Hall, improvements to Shedfield Reading Rooms, improvements to Swanmore allotments, real-time bus information into Twyford Village Centre, improvements to Wickham Community Centre, new outdoor provision at Wickham Primary School, and improvements to St Barnabas Church in Winchester and LED floodlights at Winchester Rugby Football Club. And secondly, to agree a budget and expenditure of capital grant of £217,000 for the provision of temporary consulting rooms at Bishop's Waltham Surgery, as referenced there with the dependency on obtaining planning permission. The third one is as amended, the £200,000 contribution towards the extension and redevelopment of Waterlooville Leisure Centre, with the conditions that we talked about, subject to full planning permission and an active travel package to link the site to the Winchester area. Fourth one is the £410,000 SIL receipts for the projects to improve and refurbish the public toilets in various locations in the town and district area. And referencing back to former councillor Mr. Tate's comment, I will certainly take his point in terms of reopening the family room, which now that we have firstly allocated capital expenditure and secondly extra cleaning going on with a new person cleaning the Market Lane toilets and the Abbey Gardens toilets on a daily basis, may well be possible, but I will talk to officers about that. The next one is the improved bus shelters on Cromwell Road and Andover Road, 221,000. The new gas boilers or replacing gas boilers with air source heat pumps and solar panels, a contribution towards that at Meadowside Leisure Centre. A new budget and capital grant for a contraflow scheme on the Upper High Street as part of our joint work with Hampshire County Council. And noting that in line with CAB 3385, we have £344,580 remaining in the community and health pot for further rounds of yearly bids for community and health projects. So those are the recommendations in front of us. Cabinet, are you agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much indeed. That paper is agreed, subject to the amendments made. And that brings us to the last item of the agenda, where we have no deputations, which is the request to note the future items for consideration by Cabinet, as shown in the November 2023 forward plan. Cabinet, are you happy to note those that forward plan?
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you everybody for your contributions today. Thank you for a productive meeting, and I declare the meeting closed.